Reform UK's Deputy Leader Richard Tice. Richard, much is being made today of this phone call that apparently happened yesterday with Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. It's always the first European country that he called and all that. Well, in the past, the American president on day one always called the British Prime Minister. So, A, it's taken 6 days. And B, I'm not sure that I trust the fact there will be much of a special relationship between socialist Starmer and his cabinet, most of whom have called Donald Trump terrible names, Nazi, white supremacist, etc. I'm not sure with them in power there will be much of a special relationship. But what we have heard is apparently in this alleged 45-minute phone call, very friendly, preceded by Donald Trump apparently saying Keir's doing a great job. I don't know where he got that from, but I'm sure that was just diplomacy at work. But apparently they didn't mention the tricky topic of the British ambassador to Washington. Trump does not like the idea of the Prince of Darkness, Lord Peter Mandelson, doing it, nor does he like the idea of the nominated second choice, David Miliband. He doesn't like either of them, so that's a tricky topic, apparently not mentioned. And also, they didn't talk about his bizarre bid, Keir Starmer's bizarre bid to give the Chagos Islands, the strategic Chagos Islands, to Mauritius, China's friend. So neither of these topics come up. Now, the first stumbling point, I think, tell me what you think, will be, I think they've given Trump the right of veto over the Chagos deal. He's going to veto it, isn't he?
Well, firstly, just imagine how it must have felt being Keir Starmer, remembering that just under 6 years ago, he put out a tweet on the 1st of June 2019, which said, an endorsement from Donald Trump. Let's remember, he was then President Trump. Starmer, who was in the shadow cabinet, said, an endorsement from Donald Trump tells you everything you need to know what is wrong with Boris Johnson's politics and why he isn't fit to be Prime Minister. This was just before Boris was elected to be the Tory leader and Prime Minister. So it must have been pretty weird for Keir Starmer. And I suspect that President Trump must have been, he must have wanted to sort of just remind him of it. But look, it's their first call. I think the key point you mentioned is 6 days is quite a long time. If it's true that the president had phoned Saudi Arabia and the leaders of Jordan, I think that sort of tells us where he thinks the Labour government is in his list of priorities. I'm not convinced about this ambassador point. I may be wrong, Kevin, but I've not seen some specific evidence as opposed to a bit of media whipping it up. But your key point is, of course, Chagos. I wouldn't have expected that to come up in the first conversation. That's just not how things are done in leader-to-leader circles in your first call. But it is the critical second or third call, probably more likely by the Secretary of State in America, the equivalent of our Foreign Secretary Marco Rubio, and David Lammy. And look, I think they're going to basically terminate the deal. Yeah. And that will be incredibly embarrassing for Starmer, for the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, and for the whole Labour government. I mean, I've sat there hour after hour as they've trumpeted this. Nigel has in the chamber said, you're in for a surprise. And we've all looked at each other, why are you burning all this political capital when the likelihood is that President Trump's team are going to kibosh it? That shows either unbelievable arrogance or incredible naivety, or a combination of both. But yeah, we would expect them to bin this very shortly.
Going forward, Richard, we all know that the person in Britain that Trump wants to talk to first is your friend, Nigel Farage, and isn't that particularly interested in Starmer's socialist government. He has a very low opinion of Labour. So going forward, I mean, how do you see the alleged special relationship unfolding? Because I don't think it is going to be all that special. I think that Trump will certainly play the diplomatic game to the extent that he can get an invitation to visit Britain so he can mix with the royals again. He loves all that. But apart from that, I can't see him particularly helping Britain out on a special basis. Do you think?
Well, the special relationship is with our leader, Nigel Farage. There's no special relationship between the Labour government or anybody, frankly, in the Labour Party. That's for the birds. So we'll have to wait and see. But obviously, in the national interest, Nigel will do his very best to make sure that the national special interest is maximised to the best possible intent. But at the end of the day, we have to remember, President Trump is negotiating to make America great again and putting America first. In the same way, we should be doing the same. Our leaders should be doing the same. Make Britain great again. Put Britain first. The problem is that our leaders, actually not just Labour, but the Tories before, have done exactly the opposite with some of their harebrained, crazy policies. But this lot are more extreme than any, frankly. I mean, sending an extra sort of give or take 10 billion in overseas climate aid over and above the bloated, bureaucratic, wasteful foreign aid budget. They want to send 9 billion to Chagos. They're sending hundreds of millions, I think, to Syria. I mean, there's another one that came out, for example, in the last decade. We sent £4 billion to Syria. What have we got for that? Have we got any special relationship there? I mean, all of this stuff. At the end of the day, the British government is here to negotiate for British interests in the same way that any government of any state is. And we need leaders that will put Britain first and negotiate for British interests. And that's what we at Reform will be very, very focused on.
Let me ask you a last question. If it's possible, and it clearly is, it's palpably, demonstrably possible for Donald Trump to say, these people are illegal migrants, illegal immigrants, and we are deporting them, and we are sending them back to their home country. For example, Mexico, for example, Colombia. He's been doing that all weekend. And with slight kind of problems with Colombia, all of them have just accepted it. Colombia, in the end, had to cave in and say, yes, we will take your deportees. So if it's possible for Donald Trump to say, these people are criminals, these people broke into our country illegally, and we are sending them back to you, why can't we do that to our migrants?
Oh, we could do, of course, but that requires leadership, and we haven't got any of that. That requires a competent Home Office that believes in the cause of secure borders and deporting those who shouldn't be here or who've broken the law. And it's as simple as that. And it also requires not being a member of the European Convention on Human Rights. And obviously America and most sensible countries outside continental Europe are not members of the ECHR, and they seem to have perfectly decent human rights, whether it's in America or whether it's in Canada or Australia or other friendly English-speaking nations that we get on so well with. So look, this whole thing revolves around those two things, ECHR and leadership and courage. It's actually just not that difficult.
Well, let's hope that somebody gets into power fairly soon who's got Donald Trump's leadership qualities, because there's been a poll out today that the Brits absolutely love him this time round. So good for Donald, and thank you, Richard, very much for your time. Very good to talk to you. Richard Tice there, Deputy Leader of the Reform UK Party. Yeah, I mean, what he was saying. Why don't we do what Donald Trump's done? All Donald Trump has done is taken a load of crooks, a load of people, you know, many of them in prison, and just said they broke into our country illegally. They've broken our laws. We're sending them back to their home country. Not a single one. Even the leader of Colombia, who tried to stop it, said, in the end, I don't suppose I can stop these people from being sent back. So why can't we do it?